ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Naam, so as has been mentioned all weekend, may Allah Ta'ala reward you all with good and put it on your scale of good deeds on Yawm al-Qiyamah. As has been mentioned all weekend as both classes by the Mashaykh was about the obligation of seeking knowledge. And a person has to have knowledge of that thing that he wishes to do. So we're speaking about marriage, and if a brother wants to get married, he has to know what are the rights that his wife has upon him. If a brother is already married, he has to know what are the rights that the wife has upon him. And tomorrow morning after Salatul Fajr, my brother Raha Bats, may Allah Ta'ala preserve him, is going to give a very important class about the Ahkam al-Talaq, the rulings of divorce. And it is very important that a person not even get married until they know how to get to divorce. Because many people, they get married and they don't know how to get divorced, so they get divorced in the wrong way. And they may be living together and they're not married. And they think they're married because they don't know how to get divorced. So all these things are very important. So before we begin, we'd like to mention this, that we encourage the sisters that don't settle. But rather when you get married, ask the good questions. No one asks the important questions when it's time to get married. But rather you need to begin to ask that brother, do you know what my rights are? If he does not know what your rights are, how do you expect him to give you your rights? It's probably not going to happen. So begin to ask these good questions. Brothers, do you know what my rights are? Now we mentioned how many rights did the Shaykh mention in this book? How many? For the man, there were 9. And for the women, there are how many? 12. So if you're taking notes, which everyone should be taking some type of note, write down 12 numbers. Now after the 4th number, make a long space, because that's going to be a significant amount that he's going to mention at that point. Okay? So once again, these are 2 very important books. They have both been translated in English. One book is Means to a Happy Family Life, and the other book is Haqqul Zawjain, the rights of the spouses, and both books are by Sheikh Sulaiman al-Ruhaili, may Allah Ta'ala preserve him. The Sheikh begins by saying, he said, verily the husband is the captain of the ship, and he is the supervisor of the home. And just as he has rights, there are also rights upon him, meaning rights that he has to give his wife. He said, and the Muslim husband, he draws close to Allah Ta'ala by fulfilling the rights of his wife which are upon him. He said he fulfills her rights because he is responsible for her. As the Messenger of Allah said, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَمَسْئُولٍ عَنْ رَعَتِهِ. All of you are shepherds and all of you shall be questioned. You're all responsible. You shall be questioned about your flock. He said, Al-Imam Ra'in. The Imam is a shepherd, and he will be questioned about his flock. And the man concerning his family is a shepherd, and he shall be questioned about his flock. He said, therefore the righteous man knows that he has been made responsible for his wife, and he shall be questioned about her. So he exerts himself in advising her and fulfilling her rights, because he knows this is from taqwa of Allah Ta'ala. And the Messenger of Allah he said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ فِي النِّسَاءِ. He said, fear Allah concerning the women. When you hear the word taqwa, do you know what that word means, to have taqwa of Allah Ta'ala? Because it's always translated as fear. There's about 9 different words in the Quran, all translated as fear, have different meanings. We hear taqwa of Allah Ta'ala, taqwa, what does that mean, Ya Akhwan? We hear taqwa. It's different than khawf, which is different than khashya, which is different than rahba. This is taqwa. Taqwa means that you place, ma'ak shay, tafaddal. Okay, jazakallah khayn. Anyone else?
Place a barrier between yourself and Allah's punishment.
Ahsant. That you, taqwa from the word wow, qaf, yeah. That means a protection or a barrier that you place between yourself and that thing that you fear, a barrier. So when you hear taqwa of Allah, that you place between yourself and Allah's punishment, a barrier that will keep you from being punished. And that barrier is by doing what? Doing what he told you to do and not doing what he told you not to do. Now he says, so, and the righteous man fulfills the rights of his wife because he knows this is a command of the Messenger of Allah, and he's afraid of neglecting his command. He said, treat the women kindly. This is a command. Treat the women kindly. This hadith, of course, has been collected in Sahih Bukhari. Now, he said, and the righteous man, the blessed man, he fulfills the rights of his wife because he knows he is a trust that he has been given. And the trust is from who, ya akhwan? From Allah Azza wa Jal has made this woman a trust for him. Now, as the Messenger of Allah he said, verily you have taken them as a trust from Allah. He said, so the blessed Muslim husband does not fulfill the rights of his wife in exchange for his rights. Rather, he does this because he is responsible in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. On that day, that's how long, ya akhwan? How long is the day of judgment? في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة. On a day that the standing is 50,000 years. Now, he said, so, from the rights, this is number one, ya akhwan. From the rights of the wife that she has upon the husband, now, he said, أن ينفق عليها, that he spend upon her. That this is the first one, ya akhwan, that he spend upon her according to what is customary to where he's at. So he's going to feed her when he eats. He is going to clothe her when he puts clothes on his back. He says, so the man is required to spend upon his wife and to feed his wife according to what is the customary practices in that area. And so he doesn't have to be extravagant, nor is he going to be a miser. He says, so he's not going to be stingy with his wealth and dealing with his wife and give her less than what is commonly practiced in his area. And he does not have to go above his ability and what is above common practice. He said, and this is because the Messenger of Allah, he said, their rights over you are that you should provide for them and clothe them in a reasonable manner. Bil ma'ruf, in a reasonable manner. What's number one, ya akhwan? Spend upon your wife. So just like as my brother Raha said, if you can't spend upon the first one, can you get a second and third? Not possible, ya akhwan. Allah Ta'ala is going to ask us about this, okay? Now, number two. And yuhsina ilayha. From the second right, ya akhwan, that the woman has upon the man is that he is kind to her. That he is kind to her. Now, he said, from the rights of the wife upon the husband, that he is kind to her with every means that is a common practice. He said, so he is kind to the wife in anything that does not contradict the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then he mentioned that the Prophet Muhammad he said, أَلَا وَحَقُّهُنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ أَن تُحْسِنُوا إِلَيْهِنْ. He said, their rights over you is that you should treat them well. Their right over you is that you should treat them well. Number one is what? Spend upon them. Number two is what? Treat them kindly. Okay? Let's go to number three. Number three, أَلَا يَضْرُبُهَا. That he should not beat his wife. He should not be a wife beater. Okay? And we have something very nice that my brother Raha translated that's on our blog by Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi. We all know him, right? And it's entitled, Beating Your Wife is a Reprehensible Act. It's an evil act to beat your wife, right? Nah. So the Sheikh, he says, from the rights of the wife upon the husband that he should not hit her. So he says, so he is not allowed to hit his wife unless he fears some disobedience from her. He says, so hitting is specified. There is a specified discipline. After she has been warned and she does not benefit from the warning, and he has boycotted her, and we're going to get to what it means to boycott. He says, then he is able to hit her, but the hitting, ya akhwan, is not a hitting of revenge. And as Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi, he says, the hit is like a slap or a tap. That's it. And it's never in the face. And this is the problem, ya akhwan. Sometimes we hear these terms like we hear slavery, and we think chattel slavery. You know what chattel slavery is? That's like we see on Roots. You think that kind of Islam has slavery, you expect somebody to be treated like they were treated on Roots. No, in Islam, slavery, The slave master, if he gives the slave too much work, he has to do what? He has to help him out. He has to put the same clothes on the slave that he's wearing. He's going to feed him the same food he's eating from. It's not the same, Yaquan. We have to understand the explanation of these things, okay? Now, and the Messenger of Allah, Islam, he said, whoever man daraba sultan dhulman, whoever hits someone with a whip unjustly, he will have the score to settle with him on the day of judgment. Yaquan, do we understand that on the day of judgment, who is Allah Ta'ala going to resurrect? Now, rhetorical question, give me some feedback, brothers. Everybody and every what? And everything. SubhanAllah. The Messenger of Allah Islam was walking with one of his companions one day, and he saw two rams headbutting one another. And he said to his companion, he said, do you know why those two rams are headbutting each other? And the man said, no. He said, well, Allah knows, and he is going to judge between them on the day of judgment. Two rams in the middle of somewhere, headbutting each other. And Allah Ta'ala knows exactly what started the argument between these two animals. He knows who's at fault, who was wrong. And not only does he know, but he's going to bring these animals back to life, and whoever was the oppressor has to pay the one he oppressed back. And men think they're going to get over. Men think they're going to oppress their wife and they're going to get over. There is no get over in Islam. There is no get over. The animals will be raised to life, Akhwan, and people think you're not going to be raised to life. Even if you oppress a disbeliever, as you mentioned on Yom Jum'ah, وَإِنْ كَانَ كَافِرٌ, even if you oppress a disbeliever, you have to pay them back on the day of judgment. Naam. And he said, وَلَا يَضْرِبْ الْوَجْهِ, and do not strike in the face. You can't hit in the face, Akhwan. Naam. He said, so the scholars of tafsir have said if a woman obeys her husband, there is no possibility for him to hit her at all, nor for him to boycott her. And then he said, Yaquan, listen to this verse, Yaquan. This verse is in Surah Nisa, verse number 34. He said, the translation, and for those women whose own part who you fear that they're going to do ill conduct, then admonish them first, and then boycott them in the bed, and last beat them lightly. But if they return to obedience, seek not against them a means of annoyance. And then what does he say? Inna Allah kana aliyan kabira. Do men read this last part of this verse? Verily Allah is ever the most high, the most great. The Sheikh, he says, this last part of the verse is a warning for the husbands who violate their women. So this is a warning for the men. He said he told you what you can do, but the last part of the verse, he warned you if you go overboard and do something he didn't allow you to do. He said, so verily Allah Ta'ala is the most high, the most great, and he is the protector of these women. He said, and if you oppress these women, he is going to take revenge on their behalf. Allah is going to take revenge for these women against the men who oppress them. He said, therefore, O husbands, if you feel yourself qawiyun, if you think you're strong, and you think you're able to beat your wife, and you want to beat her for no reason, in an instance that is not allowable, in a manner that's beyond the bounds. He said, then remember that Allah Ta'ala is her guardian, the one who has power over all things. He said, he is her guardian, he is the most high, he is the most great. He said, so beware of angering, of making her Lord angry. Don't make her Lord angry by oppressing her. Naam. And the Messenger of Allah Islam, he said, do not beat the female slaves of Allah. Naam. And we all know what we mentioned, that our mother Aisha, may Allah Ta'ala be pleased with her, that what she said about the Prophet Muhammad Islam, that he never hit a woman, never hit a slave. He only hit when it was time to fight in the battle. Naam. Okay. Number 4. Leave a little space, brothers. He said, أن يتودى I'm sorry